If you understand this story, your level is B2. He learned English to change his life. Episode 1. The Boy Nobody Believed in. Daniel lived in a small town where people rarely dreamed big. Most teenagers expected to work in the same factories as their parents. Nobody talked about traveling, studying abroad, or building an international career. Daniel's family struggled every month. His father worked long hours and his mother cleaned houses. Despite their efforts, money was always short. One evening, Daniel watched a video online about a young entrepreneur from another country. The man spoke fluent English and traveled around the world. Daniel was fascinated. "English is the key," the speaker said. Those words stayed in Daniel's mind. The next day, he told his classmates that he wanted to learn English fluently. They laughed. "You can't even afford private lessons," one boy said. Another added, "People like us never leave this town." Their words hurt more than Daniel wanted to admit. That night, while everyone slept, he opened free English lessons on his old phone. The screen was cracked and the internet was slow, but he studied anyway. 1 hour became 2. 2 hours became every night. Weeks passed. Then one evening, while practicing English online, he received a message from a stranger in another country. The message contained only one sentence: "I think you have talent." Daniel stared at the screen in shock. Who was this person? And how did they find him? Episode 2. The Stranger's Challenge. Daniel couldn't sleep. The message kept repeating in his head. The next morning, he opened the chat again. The stranger introduced himself as Michael, an English teacher from Canada. "I've been watching students in this language learning group," Michael wrote. "Your comments are impressive." Daniel smiled for the first time in days. Someone believed in him. Then another message arrived. "But talent means nothing without discipline." Daniel's smile disappeared. Michael gave him a challenge: study English every single day for 6 months. No excuses. 6 months sounded impossible. Daniel already helped his father after school. He worked weekends at a local market carrying heavy boxes. By night, he was exhausted. Still, he accepted. The first month was difficult. The second was worse. Some nights he studied while fighting sleep. Some mornings he woke up with English grammar books on his chest. Then tragedy struck. Daniel's father lost his job. The family income suddenly disappeared. Arguments filled the house. Bills piled up. One evening, Daniel overheard his parents talking. His mother was crying. "We may lose the house." Daniel felt his heart sink. For the first time, he considered giving up English completely. But that same night, Michael sent another message, a message that would change everything. Attached to it was a link and a single question: "Are you ready for the opportunity of a lifetime?" Episode 3. The Opportunity. Daniel clicked the link with trembling hands. It led to an international scholarship competition. The prize seemed unbelievable: a fully funded language program in London, flight tickets, accommodation, training, everything. Daniel's heart raced. Thousands of students from around the world would apply. "What chance do I have?" he thought. Michael's reply came instantly. "The same chance as everyone else who works hard." The competition required participants to record a 5-minute video in English explaining their life story. Daniel almost laughed. He hated speaking in front of a camera. His pronunciation wasn't perfect. His confidence was even worse. Still, he decided to try. For 2 weeks, he practiced every day. He recorded himself dozens of times. Sometimes he forgot words. Sometimes he froze completely. Sometimes he became so frustrated that he wanted to throw his phone against the wall. Meanwhile, the situation at home became worse. Collectors called daily. His parents looked exhausted. One evening, Daniel heard his father quietly say, "I'm sorry, I failed this family." The words broke his heart. That night, Daniel recorded his final video. He didn't talk about grammar. He didn't talk about vocabulary. Instead, he spoke about hope, about his parents, about dreams, about refusing to quit. When he finished, tears filled his eyes. He submitted the video. Then he waited. Days later, an email arrived. His hand shook as he opened it. But after reading the first sentence, all the color disappeared from his face. The message began with, "We regret to inform you." Episode 4. The Worst Day. Daniel couldn't breathe. His scholarship application had been rejected. Months of effort, months of sacrifice. Gone! He locked himself in his room and stared at the wall. Maybe his classmates had been right. Maybe people from his town really couldn't change their lives. For 3 days, he avoided English completely. No videos, no lessons, no vocabulary, nothing. Then Michael called him for the first time. "You sound defeated," Michael said. "I failed." "No, I was rejected." "That's different." Daniel remained silent. Michael continued. "Do you know how many times successful people hear no before hearing yes?" Daniel didn't answer. The teacher laughed softly. "More times than you can imagine." Before ending the call, Michael gave him one final piece of advice. "Keep studying. Something is coming." Daniel didn't believe him, but he returned to learning anyway. A week later, while working in the market, a black car stopped nearby. A well-dressed woman stepped out. She walked directly toward him. "Are you Daniel Carter?" she asked. Daniel nodded nervously. The woman smiled. "I represent an international company. We saw your scholarship video." Daniel's heart stopped. "But I was rejected." The woman smiled again. "Yes." She paused. "That's exactly why we're here." Episode 5. The Secret Viewer. Daniel stared at the business card. Nothing made sense. If he had been rejected, why was this woman standing in front of him? "My name is Sarah," she said. "I work for a global education company." Daniel followed her to a nearby cafe. His hands were shaking. Sarah explained that although Daniel had not won the scholarship, one of the judges had shared his video with several partner organizations. "Your English wasn't perfect," she said. Daniel looked down. "But your story was unforgettable." He looked up again. Sarah continued. "Thousands of applicants talked about achievements. You talked about your family." For a moment, Daniel couldn't speak. Then Sarah made an offer. The company wanted him to join a special mentorship program for young people with potential. The training would be free. Professional teachers would help him improve his English and communication skills. It sounded like a dream, but there was one problem. The program was online and required a stable computer. Daniel owned only an old phone. Sarah smiled. "We thought about that." She handed him a box. Inside was a brand new laptop. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in months, he felt hope returning. But that evening when he arrived home, he found an ambulance outside his house. Neighbors stood silently nearby. His heart dropped. Something terrible had happened. Episode 6. The Promise. Daniel ran toward the house. His mother was crying. His younger sister sat on the stairs, terrified. Inside, paramedics were helping his father. The stress of losing his job and months of financial pressure had finally caught up with him. At the hospital, the doctor explained that his father would recover, but he needed rest. A lot of rest, which meant he wouldn't be able to work for some time. The family was already struggling. Now things became even harder. That night, Daniel sat alone in the hospital corridor. The new laptop rested beside him, a gift that suddenly felt meaningless. What was the point of studying English when his family needed money now? Then he noticed his father waking up. Weakly, his father motioned for him to come closer. "Son," he whispered. Daniel leaned in. "I heard your mother talking." His father smiled faintly. "About the opportunity." Daniel looked away. "I may quit." His father's expression changed immediately. "No, but we need money." "We always needed money." The old man squeezed his hand. "Don't become another man who abandons his dream because life became difficult." Daniel felt tears running down his face. His father continued, "Promise me you'll keep going." Daniel nodded. "I promise." The next morning he returned home, determined to continue. When he opened his email, a new message was waiting. The sender was Sarah. The subject line read, "Urgent, we need you in New York." Daniel read it 3 times, then a fourth. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Episode 7, The Flight He Never Expected. Daniel reread the email again and again. It wasn't a mistake. Sarah's company was organizing a global youth conference in New York. Young people from dozens of countries would attend, and somehow Daniel had been invited. His flight, hotel, and meals would all be covered. For several minutes, he simply sat there, staring at the screen. A year ago, he had never spoken to anyone outside his town. Now, he was being invited to America. When he told his parents, his mother cried. His father smiled proudly. "You see," he said, "this is why you never quit." A month later, Daniel boarded his first airplane. Everything felt unreal. The clouds outside the window, the announcements in English, the giant buildings of New York. At the conference, he met students from Japan, Brazil, Germany, India, and dozens of other countries. For the first time, English wasn't a school subject. It was a bridge connecting people. During one session, participants were asked to share their stories. Daniel stood before hundreds of people. His hands trembled. His voice shook. But he spoke. About poverty, about rejection, about hope. When he finished, the room exploded with applause. Then, something unexpected happened. A man in the front row stood up. He introduced himself as the CEO of a fast-growing international company. And he had a question for Daniel, a question that could change his future forever. Episode 8, The Life He Dreamed About. The CEO smiled. "Daniel, would you like an internship with our company?" For a second, Daniel thought he had misunderstood. The room became silent. Everyone was looking at him. "Me?" he asked. The man nodded. "We need people who don't give up." Daniel could barely speak. "Yes," he finally whispered. The audience cheered. That internship became the beginning of everything. Over the next 2 years, Daniel worked harder than ever. His English became fluent. His confidence grew. He learned business, communication, and leadership. Eventually, the internship turned into a full-time job. Then a promotion. Then another. The boy who once studied English on a cracked phone was now traveling around the world. But the moment that meant the most happened years later. Daniel returned to his hometown. The same streets, the same school, the same people who once laughed at his dream. This time, he stood on a stage and spoke to hundreds of students. "Learning English didn't change my life," he said. The room became quiet. People looked confused. Daniel smiled. "English opened a door. What changed my life was refusing to stop when everything became difficult." The audience stood and applauded. Among them sat his parents. His father wiped away tears. His mother was smiling. The end. Moral: sometimes the opportunity that changes your life is not the one you expected. Keep learning, keep trying, keep moving forward. One day, the world may notice what nobody around you can see today. If you want to develop your English, let's do it together. Subscribe not to lose us.